Good evening. Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Richard Ayoade. In the news this week, Prince Harry is reassured he's made the right choice as footage emerges of Meghan Markle on her hen night. Having forgotten to take the industrial food blender to the royal wedding marquee, one quick-thinking chef still manages to provide watermelon sorbet for 300 waiting guests. And the trickiest bit of Brexit is resolved as a government expert demonstrates the quick and easy way for everyone to cross an invisible Irish border. On Ian's team tonight is a journalist and presenter who used to be the BBC's economics editor and business editor until he realised it made both economic and business sense to move to ITV. Please welcome Robert Peston. And with Paul tonight is a comedian and actress who thinks that performers are just looking for attention. But enough about her. There'll be more of me after we welcome Roisin Conaty. And we start with the biggest stories of the week. Ian and Robert, take a look at this.
That's, gammon and pineapple.
That takes us back, doesn't it?
What are the little red things in between?
Glacé cherries.
Oh, no, that's unacceptable.
Oh, and there is a piece of gammon. It's the latest social media term of abuse, isn't it? Sort of anybody of a certain age... And
why are you looking at me?
And a certain political persuasion. Apparently it's all right to call... men over 50 who are sort of pink and might be Brexiters gammon.
Oh, is it specific? It's not just all men over 50 who are slightly red in the face when concerned about real issues?
I'm sort of spared because I think as a Jew, although I'm the right age, I'd be more salt beef than gammon.
This is the growing use of the term gammon as an insult. A white, middle-aged man who gets red in the face with rage about Brexit, immigrants and political correctness gone mad.
So he hasn't got Danish written down the side of him?
And it's being used in self-defence by snowflakes and Ramonas. How did the use of gammon as a term of abuse originate? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I wish I did know.
Is this what they do on ITV when they throw to you?
They do. You must have seen me.
How's the economy going, Robert?
Bradley
God, I wish I knew.
I have to say, I do repeatedly say.
Someone called Ben Davis posted this on Twitter during an edition of Question Time which featured many vocal critics of Jeremy Corbyn in the audience. For legal reasons, we've had to obscure their identities. Wall of gammon.
I'm confused here, because if you're a critic of Corbyn, who is essentially a Brexiteer, does that make you gammon as well?
No, you've got to shout and go red.
Right!
You've got to be, like, red, really go red.
And you should be, as you're going red, you should be sitting on a bed of pineapple with some cherries stuck in your skin, ideally.
I want to own this somehow. It seems unfair. I mean, the English used to be called roast beef by the French.
Yes.
I mean, meat analogies are not necessarily offensive.
You want to reclaim the word gammon?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you gammon and proud?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's definitely going to be the thing that's on Twitter, gammon and proud.
Now, do you feel it is a racist term?
Racist towards white men.
Gammon's not a race. So you can't be racist to not a race. It's not a...
Have you not heard of the gammons?
Oh, I don't think they get stopped and searched on Julie.
Here's my question. Yeah. Can you be a black gammon? Kanye West's new album. Black gammon. It's going to be huge, dropping any moment now. I can't wait. The important thing is that racism is becoming more nuanced.
Yes.
And that's
to
got
the
to
point
be
of invisibility.
That's got to be progress.
You've got to be progress.
When there are levels, you can have fun with it at that stage.
Totally, yeah.
Can we have an inquiry into gammon?
Well, I hope so.
But David Cameron was called a ham for years and no one minded. It's...
Maybe David Cameron minded. What do you think?
No, he loved it.
Well, he's got form with pigs, so... well, you know. The hard left have another disparaging term for people who don't agree with them. What's that?
Well, that's centrist dad.
Yes. Who would you identify as a centrist dad?
Tony Blair, Peter Mandelson.
Why you suddenly started talking in a Cockney accent?
It's a centrist dad thing to do, I fear.
Tony Blair, Peter Mandelson. I've got a lock-up garage round the back of Ealing if you want to get some dining tables cheap, you know what I mean? Not real beeswax, but it's like beeswax. It smells like the real stuff, but it's much cheaper.
Oh, God.
Yes. This is the Centrist Dad's Essential Starter Pack, as shown on Facebook. That's on the internet.
Ah, Facebook.
I'm a centrist dad!
Yes.
I seem to be falling into every category.
You're like a Venn diagram.
Yeah, I am. Do I have to start wearing a cardigan?
I think so.
Well, you knew that one day you'd have to give up the cummerbund.
One day.
There is something even about the insults that we talk about that are sort of inherently excluding women, like centrist dad, gammon, who are men, and you sort of go, women are doing all these things as well. It's quite, I don't know what I'm saying here. Do I want us to be more included in the insults?
Do you feel gammon is a gendered term?
Theresa May's gammon. Someone, ooh! I mean, I've not seen her go red, actually, so she's
No,
not
she's
gammon.
entirely white-faced.
Yeah.
In a constant state of shock.
No, she could do...
She found she was leader of the party. Oh, my God.
You're
She's
saying
Prime Minister
basically...
still. It's ghostly.
Yeah, she could do with getting a bit of gammon about things.
What she does in her free time. We don't know. We don't know what goes on in that party. They've got one pig, they need to make it last. They get it out of the freezer.
Yeah.
How has Theresa May been trying to overcome the divisions in her cabinet and MPs?
By having them all in to see her,
Yes.
to talk about her two absolutely riveting customs plans.
Which are?
Max, VAC and NCP.
Right, a car park and a makeup.
That is indeed right.
That's one hell of a choice.
Europe will reject both, and MPs will reject both. But the choice is tearing the cabinet apart. So plainly, this is a government focusing on the important issues.
I don't want to have to paraphrase you. But you're saying they're debating something that doesn't matter and isn't going to happen, and they're only doing it in order to survive for another week.
So that's your interpretation.
Well, what she's done
Yeah.
is she's split the cabinet into two groups.
Yeah, two working groups.
And has held discussions with smaller gatherings of MPs.
But she's taken people from one group who absolutely disagree with one of it and put them over there with people who absolutely agree with it, and then another working party here. So she's just split the two groups into two so that they can disagree with each other first, then disagree with them, then come together and disagree with her. I mean...
And what's been happening at the Home Office this week?
We've discovered, I think, that 65 of the Windrush generation have been deported, despite the fact that comparatively recently the Home Office said nobody had been deported, so it's another government trial.
And also, while Home Secretary Sajid Javid was posing with a sniffer dog in this tweet, the police were called in after discovery of crystal meth actually inside the Home Office.
I know, it's wonderful, isn't it? It's absolutely wonderful.
The trouble about Robert's laid-back stance is I'm looking at his head. No, it's that sort of slight sprawl. I mean, when you work for the BBC, it's here, but at ITV, it's sort of here. I'm sorry,
It's
Robert.
doing a show on a Sunday morning, like the rest of his audience is trying to get rid of a hangover.
This is the sudden emergence of the word gammon. Remember that?
No.
As a term of abuse.
It wasn't that sudden.
Millennial Remainers describe Leave supporters as gammon, presumably as they've got chips on their shoulders and will end up with egg on their face. As the DUP raged at use of the term gammon, Owen Jones tweeted that this is the party who claim homosexuality needs to be cured. Owen, it's gammon that needs to be cured. Paul and Roisin, take a look at this.
Ah, yes, there we are. They've been kept under wraps. The royal wedding is happening in a few hours' time. There's some old twit. He's left his keys at home. Back from the pub. And there's Prince Philip enjoying a day out. So, yes, this is the news that a couple are getting married at the weekend and everybody's very happy for them.
Her mother might walk her up the aisle. That would be something new. She might walk up the aisle herself.
Yeah, just use her legs.
Yeah.
Just walk up like you've got your legs on you.
Yeah. And I mean, some of us think it's quite sort of patriarchal and a bit gammony to be given away.
Yeah.
Look at you, centrist dad.
I'm just trying on the cummerbund.
The term given away is, but I think the rest of it's, you know, it's all right. They're serving their food out of bowls.
That's the word on the street.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
They
a
really
sit-down
are.
afterwards.
No, so afterwards, they're standing up.
Yes.
And, sorry, I'm trying not to get as animated.
Man, it's
standing
important to
You're
discuss
the person
this.
who's really gripped by this story.
I just can't believe you're serving food in bowls. Like, imagine you've got a glass and a
Yeah.
clutch.
Yeah.
Where do you put your bowl under your chin and just like a trough?
Do you know
Like-
what the term for this meal is?
No.
Bowl food.
Is a queen going to stand up and eat it out of a bowl?
No.
No, she'll have a footman chucking
Definitely
cheesy
not.
watches at her.
Yes.
It might be a misprint. Prince Charles' organic lentils. It could be bowel food.
In a way, all food is bowel food,
You're
you'd hope
right.
at some stage.
Yes. It's all a matter of timing, isn't it?
It is timing. Her father won't be attending.
Yes,
He's
which
now
is
said he
sad.
won't be coming to the wedding.
No.
Situation is a bit confused, but he first said that he wouldn't be there after the Mail on Sunday revealed he colluded with the paparazzi who took photos of him preparing for his daughter's big day.
The picture is a touch confused because none of the family seemed to talk to each other. And Meghan's sister said it was my idea to collude with the paparazzi to have these pictures taken. And then the royals said, can you leave him alone, please? You're harassing him. At which point the family said, well, not so much harassing as we're getting 100 grand out of this. So no one really knew which members of the family were profiting and which ones were being exploited.
Do you feel more could have been done to protect the Markles?
I think with that family, they're trying quite hard not to be protected. I mean, the sister gives interviews most days saying, why doesn't that silly, grasping, gold-digging bitch invite me to the wedding? You know, which isn't a great way to get invited yourself, really.
Sure.
No.
And the half-brother sent an open letter to Prince Harry saying, don't marry her. I mean, you don't know how awful she is. Don't marry her. And then he says, I'm not invited. So, yeah. I mean, you know, we've all been to terrible weddings. Many of them our own, but I feel this one is spectacular.
Yes, they have proved themselves to be a fairly dysfunctional family, but Meghan seems happy to marry into it. Well, the question is, what do you buy the couple that has everything?
Oh, I know. There's swimming costumes with their heads on.
Do you want to see a picture?
No. It couldn't match my imagination.
Well... It's a wide beard.
That is just horrible.
I'm never going to sleep again.
What will happen in Windsor tomorrow if crowds of spectators exceed 12,000?
Fox hunt.
Well, according to the Sunday Times, they will be funnelled into overspill fields.
Oh, yes.
And what happens if the overspill fields overspill?
Oh, no. Fox hunt.
If the overspill fields overspill, Windsor will be closed off altogether, and passengers will be ordered off trains at Staines. God! The humanity! Staines! Jeez, man! Staines!
Imagine you've come from the States and you end up in Staines.
End up accidentally in Staines. Where will the BBC's Hugh Edwards be during proceedings?
He'll be so close, he'll be inside the Duke of Edinburgh's trousers.
Well, specifically, Hugh Edwards will be on the roof of the guardroom.
Ooh.
Kirsty Young will be based by the moat. While Alex Jones from The One Show will be dotted around the grounds.
Have you ever done one of those royal events where you have to just sit and make it up?
One of the joys of my career as I've never... I mean, it is... Can you imagine standing outside for as long as that and having to spout interminable...
But you could just make it up. And there's the Lord Lieutenant of Bedfordshire. A veteran of 12 world wars. With his wife, Meghan Sparkle. I mean, I'd love to do it. I mean, I'm just...
You've not been asked?
Never been asked.
What is the secret to live broadcasting?
Don't ask me, I'm rubbish at it.
Please.
Do it as it happens.
Let's have a look at you doing a live report.
Will investors put up interest costs for a John McDonnell as Chancellor? And then there is simply the long-term question of whether, in general, their economic policy will be seen in those circumstances to be credible.
Robert Peston in Brighton, thank you.
It's a hell of a poker face. This is the build-up to the royal wedding. Now that Meghan's father is definitely not going to be there, it's likely she'll be given away by her mum, Doria, who's more than welcome as long as she remembers to bring her invitation and, of course, her landing card to prove she's entered the country legitimately.
It's a very timely joke.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining why that joke shouldn't have divided the room and that the hostility should not be directed towards me. Details of the happy couple's private wedding list have been revealed. One of the gifts is a cowshed lavatory brush. Judging by the cowsheds I've been in, long overdue. We're back on safe ground.
Yeah, we're all right now.
Crap on cowsheds. We can deal with that. The Americans have gone royal wedding crazy, and the Telegraph reports that the most viewed item on the US website Pinterest is a recipe for cucumber sandwiches.
Be sure to slice the cucumber, otherwise it's a very long sandwich.
You would have thought the recipe is in the title there. Harry and Meghan have already received several gifts from foreign heads of state, including President Macron, who gave them a cigarette lighter. Even though Meghan has recently told her fiancé to ditch smoking and cut down on alcohol. Dames. Now on to round two, Richard's Round Round, a collection of stories all roughly circular in shape. Let's see what we get first.
So, this is the news that Mr Kim has got very cross and he's threatening to end the great talks that are going to save the world with President Trump.
Yes.
I thought he was trying a bit of Trump diplomacy, just by being madder than Trump. So he said, we're going to scrap our nuclear weapons as part of the deal. And then the next day he said, they've asked us to scrap our nuclear weapons. What sort of deal is that? No!
Yes, this is the news that Kim Jong-un is trying to outsparkle the Markle patriarchal debacle. Thank you. Thank you.
I love that.
Oh, please, yeah. Thank you. Kim was not happy about an annual US-South Korea air combat exercise, codenamed Max Thunder, which Kim was worried was actually a secret and sneaky rehearsal for a US-led invasion. But Max Thunder is actually what Donald Trump shouts when he ejaculates.
Oh! It's an odd time for those of us who don't want the world to end, but we don't necessarily want Trump to have a diplomatic triumph. So if it all goes wrong and the world does end, we go, well, at least Trump was wrong.
Yeah.
Apart from possible failure in North Korea, what else is bad news for Trump's hope of winning a Nobel Peace Prize?
Ooh.
I think possibly moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
Yes, which went less well than you'd hope.
He said it would be fine, and then 50 people died, which is sort of not usually fine.
The massacre of unarmed Palestinians obviously did take the shine off big success.
Eurovision.
Yes.
When they said Eurovision was going to Jerusalem, they said it would hold the live rounds.
Oh, gosh.
The winner was called Netta.
That's right.
Not Netanyahu.
No.
I thought it was unfortunate.
But Netanyahu did take to Twitter to congratulate, saying, Netta, you are a real darling, which was unfortunately translated by Microsoft to say, Netta, you are a real cow. How did the UK do?
Second from last.
Third from last, wasn't it?
Maybe fourth from last.
Fourth from last.
We're doing well.
Fantastic.
Getting better all the time.
Yeah, this is great.
We've got to keep going, we might win. Surrey, the UK's entry, saw her performance interrupted by a protester, which was a shame, as enthusiasm and support back home had never been higher. Here's one fan being interviewed.
Does Britain stand a chance? No.
At the Eurovision Song Contest, the UK entry was interrupted by a stage invader. Dr. AC Activism grabbed the mic for several seconds and shouted barely comprehensible gibberish. He came fourth. As well as Eurovision, the protester has also invaded the stage at the National Television Awards and The Voice. It's a testament to the security services that he has never ruined anything good. Of course, winning Eurovision means next year's final will be held in Israel. Good luck invading that stage. Time now for the odd one out round. Just one between you this week. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Your four are Margaret Thatcher, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, King Tang of Shang and Roger Moore.
OK, so Ben and Jerry, they're obviously, unless it's a double bluff, they are the ice cream makers who make Ben and Jerry ice cream. So is it about inventing ice cream?
It is about inventing ice cream, but who
Well,
or
I
what
think,
is the odd one?
Well, I don't know that Roger Moore invented something. I don't know who this bloke is. But there was a story that Margaret Thatcher had invented an ice cream, but
She worked on Mr Softy, didn't she?
Yes,
She
flavours,
worked
yeah.
on Mr Softy.
Yeah.
She was involved in the chemical manufacture of...
But
Oh, that's right, because she was a chemist.
I don't think she actually invented an ice cream. I'm saying she's the odd one out.
You are absolutely right.
Oh,
Wow.
Yes. They've all invented a type of ice cream, except for Margaret Thatcher, who did not help to invent Mr Whippy, despite that being widely reported as fact. It's flake news. Thank you very much, yes. What sort of ice cream did everyone's third favourite Bond, Roger Moore, invent?
What would you invent if you were Roger Moore?
the raspberry mirror.
That one. that exact one.
Strawberry mirror.
I just want Paul to keep guessing
Yeah,
so
so
he
do
can
I.
keep using that voice.
Chalk eyes.
Yes.
You're very close.
Very close. Very,
Very
close.
close, yes.
Is it chocolates on a stick?
Oh, a Magnum.
Yes, Magnum, which is a
Yeah,
chocolate
because
on the
he
stick.
didn't like eating it on its own, because the bits went on his jumper.
Well, safari suit, please.
Safari suit. So he said, why don't you put a stick in it?
Yes.
He was always saying that, wasn't
Yeah.
he?
His catchphrase.
Yeah. Why didn't you put a stick in it?
Yes. When asked in an interview who he'd most like to meet, the late Sir Roger replied, I would like to meet Mr Walls and ask why they don't have a choc ice with vanilla inside that I had as a child and put it on a stick. I didn't know at the time, but other people like Claire Bloom were being asked the same question and they wanted to meet Gandhi and Jesus. Walls later got in contact and sent him an early version of what became the Magnum. Seems weird to
Good.
post it.
Yeah.
Given that Roger Moore didn't seem to get any credit for the idea at the time, what do you think he thought of the Magnum once it hit the shops in 1989?
He loved it.
He loved it.
Did he?
Of course he loved it.
He rather loved it. According to the Sunday Times, in spite of his diabetes, he would allow himself a couple of Magnum Black Espressos every week. Does anyone know what kind of ice cream King Tang of Shang invented?
Viennetta.
No. He is credited with inventing the very first ice cream, sometime around 1600 BC.
Well, we should all be very thankful to him.
Yeah.
We should be.
So, you know, there's a lot of joy in ice cream in the world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Tang.
I think he killed a lot of people.
OK,
Oh, come
well...
on, Robert, let's enjoy the ice cream. Give it 2 minutes.
Ice cream.
To be fair, he
Killing
didn't get the
people.
recipe right at first.
Finally,
Yeah.
what's the best way to cool down a giraffe?
Give it a Magnum.
Close, give it an ice lolly.
It's such a big ice lolly.
That giraffe is not to scale.
I wonder who invented that massive ice lolly for giraffes.
Tang Chang.
Why don't you make an ice lolly for a giraffe?
They've all invented a type of ice cream except for Margaret Thatcher, who did not, as widely believed, help invent the Mr Whippy. Here's a young Margaret Thatcher in the research lab, freezing milk into ice cream. just by looking at it. Of course, having invented ice cream, the next step for King Tang of Shang was to set up his country's biggest ice cream factory, the Great Walls of China. Time now for the missing words round, when we start with world's oldest tortoise still what at 186?
So I did read this story.
OK, good.
And it's to do with a very old tortoise having sex.
Yes, enjoys the ladies.
So he doesn't stick to his own species, then? Dirty devil!
Yeah. Next, astonishment as cat in Liverpool spotted what?
Having sex with a 186-year-old tortoise.
No.
Tortoise? Yeah, I don't care, mate, I don't care.
The answer is knocking on door.
Oh!
Do you want to see the clip?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Yes.
It's canvassing for the Labour Party.
It's that momentum.
Very good.
Momentum.
Next, 1,000 unexpected walruses. What?
Surprise midwife.
Well, the answer is cover an Alaskan beach.
Oh.
Finally, Canterbury man carrying plant pot. What?
Canterbury man carrying plant pot panics as people realise plant is pot.
You're frickin' right.
Am I right?
You're right!
I mean, the content is massively right to what you're saying. The
Really?
answer is Interrupt Live News Report, and when we see the clip, how right you are will become apparent.
Well, Cameron Tucker is in Hythe for us now. So, Cameron, what's the latest?
Well, last August, when it was found that Neil and Yvette Hartley had been growing almost 90 cannabis plants, little did their neighbours know that in this quiet corner, this quiet, pretty little corner in the Kent countryside, just over my shoulder is where
So the final scores are, Ian and Robert have 4, Paul and Roisin 8.
Oh, well.
And I leave you with news that at the royal wedding, word spreads that the free bar is closing in 5 minutes. A new doping scandal hits the world of cycling as Team Sky deny injecting their front wheels with steroids. And after a cabinet meeting on Brexit, the Foreign Secretary insists he's 100% focused on every detail. Good night.